Hello and welcome to you. Nice to be with you. Nice to see all your beautiful faces. Yeah, of course, I'm going to invite you to come to our next retreat, December 6th through the 8th, where we will be investigating spiritual power. So I do hope you can make that. And so as we begin this evening, I'm going to invite you just to scan your body. And I want you to notice if all of yourself is here. Is all of yourself here? Sometimes we do things and we are 10% present or 30% present or maybe 60% present. And I'm going to invite all of you to be here. All of you being all of your presence to be here with me, to be here with the Sangha, to be here with yourself. I'm gonna start tonight by just sharing this crazy story I saw about a doctor, an anesthesiologist of some sort, and this guy, he was down in Texas, and he was going around the hospital, and I shouldn't be laughing. This is horrific, and he was poisoning people, and like killing them, ending their life. It's a crazy, insane thing to do. And, I don't know what the deal is with him. I didn't get too much into the story. I don't really like stories about things like this. But the point here is that I always wonder, like, well, how can something like that happen? Like, you have to be so far disconnected from your heart, so far disconnected from your heart, and then be possessed by some kind of demonic force. And again, I'm not laughing at what he did. It's more, I'm just laughing at the insanity of being human. And that some of us, we wonder, like when we start to wake up, we wonder, how did I get so lost? How did I get so lost that I decided that I was going to be killing people as a healer, or a doctor? Like, how? Like, what happened in my life? And so this month and this season, we've really been focusing on power in order to be an empowered being on the spiritual path. You have to have all of yourself, all of your soul parts here within you, not outside of you, but here within you. I was talking with someone earlier in the week, and we were just talking about, actually they were talking about me, and they were saying, Craig, you don't seem like you're out getting in any trouble, and I think he was speaking about like going out like chasing ladies and this and that, like some spiritual teachers do. And I was wondering, well, like, why do people chase something that causes them trouble? Well, it's because often on the path we think that there's aspects of ourself that are outside of us, so we go chase that thing. And I don't care if we're chasing uh, lads, is that what they say in England? Lads. We're chasing lads, or we're chasing gals, or we're chasing cookies or cake, or chasing money, or success or fame or whatever it is, if we're ever chasing something, it's because there's an aspect of our soul that somehow has gotten lost, somehow got loose from us. Now, right now, I've got this really old house, and I'm remodeling it. So I put new windows in, and then I had to trim out the windows, and I was painting the windows. And I was sitting there yesterday, and I was kind of standing on the kitchen counter, and I was cutting in, the paint. And I look out the window, and I see these two cute little puppies out running in the street. And those two cute little puppies were my puppies, And so I yelled to my wife and daughter, "Hey, Bingo and Buster, they're out on the loose. Go get them." And I had, like wet paint, and I was in a difficult situation, otherwise I would have, ran and got them myself. But I had my hands full, to say the least. And so they ran out, they got the dogs, and they brought them back home. I don't want my little guys getting run over by a big pickup truck. And when we're on the path, it's always a very important question, just to really look at our life and to see, where am I? Where am I getting in trouble? Where is life speaking to me? Where inside do I feel deficient, or to use the Buddhist terms, like grasping? Like, what do I grasp at here on planet Earth? And when we begin to investigate these categories, we'll see that there's aspects of our soul that have gotten lost, that have gotten like a boat without an anchor. They just started to drift out to sea. And for many of us, big parts of our spiritual path are going out and finding our soul parts, not finding them in another, because that's the story that our ego tries to sell us. If I could just get, Mr. Handsome, the knight in shining armor, he would just come and save me. If I had a beautiful woman like my mother, come and take care of all my childlike needs, then I'll feel safe, and then I can let go. But of course, the Buddha and any great yogi, the Christ, they didn't teach to find fulfillment in the world. All the great beings have taught to find fulfillment, to find the truth within our own self. And so again, we'll take another moment here, and we'll go inside. And I invite you to look, scan your body, scan the 7 chakra centers. And notice the places that feel weak or deficient. Can you find the holes in your psyche? The places where you feel as if you hemorrhage energy, where you are losing power. And so I invite you to look in the space of your mind and see if there's any arguments that you're having with reality, with your neighbor, mother, father, sister, brother. I invite you to look in your crown and see, is your crown open and receptive to the grace of God? Is your crown open and receptive to the hugeness of reality, the hugeness of your being? And sometimes it's not that we feel deficient. Sometimes it's rather that our ego feels really entitled and takes up a lot of space and thinks we don't need God. And so that's a different type of way the ego can get lost, as it can get lost in itself. If you feel down into your throat, seeing if there's any aspects of your being that are congested, there are things that are wanting to be expressed. Sometimes it's a mix of the mind and the heart and the throat. The heart is saying, I need people to see, to honor my expression. Sometimes as we feel down into our will, we have issues with the will of really asserting ourselves or being afraid to assert ourselves or wanting someone else to speak up and defend us or wanting life to be fair, or as you feel down into the hara, there may be fears where we've given our power away to our boss or to our lover, to mother, father, whoever. So we feel down into the roots, there may be a primordial fear toward life. And I invite you just to see where you lose power. Where your human manifestation comes up short. And I don't mean that as a criticism. I mean that as just an investigation. Where am I coming up short in life? Where am I at a loss? And so after you see what's here, I invite you to come into the depth of your heart and the depth of your hara. So journeying in to the heart, not just hanging out on the surface, because on the surface of the heart, often there'll be the deficiency. You journey deep into the center of the heart. The same thing with the hara. We journey deep into the center of the hara. So we're connecting to a sense of strength, a sense of power, a sense of truth, a sense of unconditional love. And if we ask the truth of our being, what do I need to change in my life? What do I need to evolve? What is my next step? What do I need to honor? What do I need to love? And can you allow the truth to speak to you? And so we're first seeing what's here, where we're deficient. And then we are asking our heart, what is the solution? Asking the heart, what is the truth? Asking the depth of your being, what is your next step? What is your next step? And so finally, I'm going to invite us just to take a moment and to see your highest nature coming online, to see yourself victorious here on planet Earth. Victorious. And victorious may be you calling aspects of your heart back home from an ex, from the dominating father, mother, or boss, or some argument you got in on X Twitter. And so let's see. And I'm going to invite you to write a little something in the chat. If someone really wants to share, you can raise your hand, but I want to see what's here. I want to check in with you. I don't want to sit here alone in the silence. I want you to join me. And you take a moment and write something in the chat about what it was that you were deficient in and what the solution was that came forward, or if you have a question. And let's have some engagement here. In the meantime, I want to share this this funny story. Let's see if I can get through two of them. Yesterday I took my daughter and her friend down to the skate park, and they wanted to do some skateboarding again. And so, I was being a skateboard teacher, just kind of funny. But then my daughter said, "Hey, Dad, let's go play pickleball." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, we can go play some pickleball. Sure." I think my daughter and her friend got a little frightened of the angry teenagers at the skate park. And it's an interesting thing on the path. It's like sometimes we get so angry. So we went over to the pickleball court. For those of you who don't know, pickleball is a silly game. It's like a smaller version of tennis somehow. Anyways, and I saw this fella there, and he was, he might have been 68 or 73 or something. So he was an older fella, but this town I live in has a lot of, I'm going to call them like ultra skinny athletes is the way I'm going to frame it. So like a lot of road bike people and mountain bike people and ultra runners, this type of thing, mountain climbers. And this old fella, he was playing against these young kids, and he was absolutely dominating, destroying them, almost like making them suffer, humiliating, like crushing them with humiliating defeat. I don't see anyone smiling here, but if I'm getting my butt kicked by like a 73-year-old man at pickleball, like I might have some emotion here. Like I might be like, man, this old guy is coming after me. And I was just really watching him, and it was just interesting to me. It was just interesting that this fella had so much competitive aggression. And I'm curious if anyone here within this group, within this Sangha, has any competitive aggression. Me, like, I've never been a competitive guy. Like when I was young, me and my brothers, we were a little bit competitive, but I can't pull off competition. I'm happy to let the other person win. I'm happy to, have a good, a good fight, a good struggle, but like, I don't need to win. I don't need to win. But some of us, we do need to win. And just as human beings, we tend to be, we don't honor this in modern age, but we tend to be aggressive creatures. I heard a spiritual teacher the other day, I think it was Carolyn Mace, who said, we are predators. humans are predators. And I don't think most of us think of ourselves as predators. And because of this, we have an aggressive nature that lives in the shadows. And on the spiritual path, sometimes I meet with people and they say, Greg, I'm sitting here and there's this big feeling. And, I smile because the big feeling almost always is rage. And a lot of people have shame about this. And to me, it's just a normal part of being human, is to have some rage, to have some fury, to have some fire. But when we dismiss our humanity, and instead we wear, let's say, like a false mask of spirituality. Maybe it's a really sincere mask, but it's also a false mask that shows up in this sense of false humility. And then we go out into the world and we're picked upon. And then we come home to our meditation cushion and we sit and we have rage. And, I smile because, I've done that for years, where I ignored my power because I thought spiritual people weren't supposed to have power. And then I cry because, as a spiritual person without any money for most of my adult life was just so utterly broke or in debt. And here on planet Earth, God wants us to be deeply connected to her grace, to her love, to her peace, to her kindness and compassion, her infinite love. But the Divine Mother also wants us connected to her power. As we open to it, we realize this power. Her power is our power. It's a true power. A power where we share our gift. We share our truth. Where we share in communion of oneness and unity with all of life. We share in gratitude and generosity with life. But for some reason, we have these ancient religions that have so much guilt and shame in them that we reject our power and then think we have to play this false humility game and just be small human beings on the path. And of course, there's a consequence when we play small. Just the most immediate consequence is when you play small, you're not seen. When you're not seen, your needs will not be met or taken care of. And you'll probably be broke. And this planet is full of broke spiritual beings. And again, like I say it with a smile because I was one forever. And even today, it's like, today I'm very happy to have a living wage. But there could be much more. There could be much more. Had I been willing to really honor this powerful aspect of my being. And this is true for all of us. We could have a fuller life. A fuller life, a life of abundance, generosity, a life of great gratitude, a life where we are sharing our gifts and doing great things here on planet Earth. And in order for this to happen, it's going to require that we get to know our frightened aspects of our being and our aggressive aspects of our being, and to bring them both into the light. Both into the light. The parts of us that are frightened, frightened to speak up, frightened to share. And then the parts that are silently angry, because most of us aren't outwardly angry or aggressive. Like this fella I saw at the at the pickleball court, who was just crushing all the competition with a fury, making all the other pickleball players pay for their sins, is the way I like to say it. Let me say one other thing too, just because it's something that happens in spiritual communities. Is I went, this is a long time ago. I went and I visited, studied at the Sri Aurobindo ashram, in Pondicherry, India, and there's this really sad thing that tends to happen after, a great master, or in this case, two great masters, Aurobindo and his teaching partner, Mother Mira. They were teaching together, and Aurobindo, of course, passed, and then the mother passed, and then when there's not a clear successor, there kind of was a successor, Satprim, but he went, he ran away to Paris. But anyways, so when there's not a clear successor, the ashram tends to get taken over, and this has happened many times throughout India, by, how should I say this? I want to say it without being so mean, but a bunch of old, grumpy men who just read from the books. This happened to Jesus too. It's like, after Jesus went to heaven, a bunch of old grumpy men take over. It's like, okay, the Bible, this is it. And this is all you're going to get. This is all you're going to get. So I went to the Aurobindo ashram, and I saw, there was just a lot of old grumpy men kind of reading the text, and maybe they'd give some classes, and they would debate over what Aurobindo said and what he actually meant and this and that. And I was really let down. I was incredibly let down. I wanted to see if there was anyone there who was holding the light, who was transmitting the truth. And there was a lot of people who were just repeating what was said in the text. And I bought all the text. I had to ship all these books back from India, but it's like a pile of books, as tall as I am. And so I studied the text and this and that, but ultimately I wanted to have the direct experience. And so when I was there, I can't remember yet. You have to forgive me. I believe it was Aurobindo's birthday. And because of this, they opened the door to his room. Like normally his room is left closed, even though he's long passed. But the room, or it's like I don't know what you call it, maybe a flat where him and the mother had lived. And they just let us walk by the room. And as I walked by the room, all this light, this radiance was pouring forth from his room. This tremendous light was radiating from his living quarters. I thought, my God, okay, here's the transmission. And then, later in the day, I went down to his and the mother's Mahasamadhi. And that's their gravesite. And again, the same thing, so much light, just pouring from their Mahasamadhi. And so again, I smile and say, okay, this is what I want. I want to plug right into the source, right into the source. And then later in the week, I went up the coast, and there's an intentional community that's based on the teachings of Aurobindo called Auroville. And, I walked around there, and, there was like a bunch of hippies and organic farmers and this and that. And people were trying, it looked like some kind of new age commune, and a bunch of Europeans. And whereas the ashram itself is just full of all Indians, and there was this little fight going on between the Auroville people and the Aurobindo ashram people, who had the true vision. And again, both of them had a philosophy. One had a philosophy of just reading the books. The other had a philosophy of this new age, like kind of new age world order or something. And again, like, forgive me if I don't mean to offend anyone, at the ashram or at Auroville. This is how it was, when I visited. But in Auroville, there's this giant, it's called the Matra Mandir. It looks like something from the Epcot Center, Disneyland. This giant ball, giant orb. You can walk up in it, you meditate in it. And as soon as I got into that building, there was this crushing light. Crushing light. I mean, it was delicious. It was wondrous. It was incredible, but so intense. It was by far the most amazing place I've ever meditated. Besides, the times I had with my teacher. But anyways, it was quite an intense experience. So on the spiritual path, if we are going to be empowered, we must listen to our soul. We must support our soul. We must hear its call and walk in its direction. My soul has always been interested in the direct experience of God. I don't care what the books say. I'm going to read them. I'm going to study them. And I don't, forgive me, maybe that's a little too harsh. It's not that I don't care what the books say. It's that I am absolutely interested in the direct experience of God. I've always been. I always want to plug directly into the truth. Now, books, I have piles of them. Piles of spiritual books. And I study them, but when I study them, I am hoping to connect more fully through the book, through the teaching. But ultimately, I like to go right to the source. Right to the source. Now, many of us on the path we find ourselves lost and disempowered because our energy is all outside of us. We let the priest tell us the truth. We let the book tell us the truth. We let the Bible tell us the truth. We let our culture tell us the truth. But in this path that I teach, we discover the truth through direct contact with the divine, through your heart plugging directly into God, your mind plugging directly into God, your hara plugging directly into God. And if you happen to plug into God, and instead of discovering God, you discover fear or sadness or heartache or a big wall of shame or guilt or self-hatred, It's like, okay, then we need to do some work. And then we need to do some work. We need to do some work and clear, heal. And we need to go out into the world and realize, oh my gosh, my power is outside of me. And I need to pull it back into me. If we want to know true love, the only way we will find true love is through you coming into your heart and plugging directly into God, plugging directly into non-dual reality. Being like, oh, yes, this is true love. This is my nature. This is the fabric of my being. This is the fabric of all beings, of all of life. But if our human heart says, I want to know true love, we go online and we swipe right. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Swipe right. That means you like it, right? We swipe right for Rico Suave. It's like, Rico is going to love me and he's going to take care of me and he's going to hold me. He's going to uplift me. And he's going to tell me how beautiful I am. At some point, God, even if Rico's a great guy, at some point, God is going to make Rico fail and fail miserably. Maybe Rico's a lovely fella, but maybe his mother is sick and he has to go home and take care of her for the next 5 years. And Rico won't be there to take care of us. I'm sorry. I'm getting lost with my story about Rico Suave. We've all done this before. We've all done this where we give our power away. And then on the path, one day we might have a wild, amazing, incredible Kundalini awakening, a non-dual awakening. But this awakening, it doesn't last. And we wonder, why doesn't it last? Oh, maybe it's because I'm always giving my power away to Rico Suave. I can remember, like when I was young, I think I was young, right? I was young. And everyone's crush was Britney Spears, right? Wasn't that somebody, Britney Spears? I think this poor girl, she turned into a train wreck. And it's like, man, if we think Britney Spears is going to save us, you think she's got something for us, we're in trouble. We're in trouble that we give our power away. There's so many different ways we get lost. And so a big part of the path as we mature is honestly looking out at life and seeing, where have I given my power away? Where have I given it to? Now, most of us have given aspects of our power away to mother and father. And I can tell you this, that I've done, I've worked with people before. Sometimes people have been on the path for like 30, 40 years. And they come to me and they want to tell me how awake they are. And I'm like, okay, yeah. But then I wait and then they hit me with a question. And then I turn it back up, to them and say, well, what's this about within you? Like, where do you lose your power? And then all of a sudden, they start complaining about their mother. I'm like, dang, you're like, 50, 60, 70 years old. And they're saying, yeah, it's my mother's fault. I'm like, okay, like let's talk about that. Let's do a little therapy. And then they get mad. They say, I don't want to do this. I should be over this. This should be healed by now. Sometimes they have shame and they say, I can't believe this is still here. And I always smile because it's like, What do you mean you can't believe it's still here? Don't you know yourself? And they might know their sophisticated spiritual mask, which has all the answers and this and that. But they don't know all the ways they give their power away. As I say, okay, let's do some work. Like now, it's now or never. It's now or never. And I've been surprised because I've met a handful of folks, actually a lot more than a handful, who might show up and they do, a little bit of work. And then they pick up the shame again. And they disappear. And they try to live in that mask of spirituality. But the shame haunts them. It haunts them. If we are going to grow and evolve on this spiritual path, we have to be humble. We have to admit the things that fail us. We cannot look inside of our humanity and say, I can't believe this is here. We look inside, we say, oh, of course it's here. Of course. Look, here's my old friend. I like how Ram Dass used to say, he's like, look at my old friends. My old friends are with me. My old friends. And we want to love these old friends and meet them with kindness. We're not going to shame them. We're not going to tell them they're wrong. We're going to say, let's begin again. Let's try again. Let's work with healing. Because I want all the old friends inside to have a lovely journey on the path. I don't want them to have to carry guilt or shame or self-hatred or insecurity for 50 years or 70 years or for 70 lifetimes. Let's meet them all with love. Let's meet them all with love. And as we meet them with love, we find it becomes fairly easy to be awake in the world. But if we bury these things in our shadow, we'll eternally be asking, why aren't I awake? Why am I lost in this pain and confusion? Life isn't fair. Okay, so let's hear what you all said here. Let's take a peek here. Robbie writes, to believe in love more than fear. Yeah, I mean, this really is what the path is about, is for us to believe in love. To believe in love more than fear. The thing about fear is really loud. Really loud. I can tell you that I was doing some electrical work today. Here I am. I'm not being a good Christian, like today's the Sabbath, right? I'm supposed to have a day off. But, I'm trying to get the house fixed up. And, I was doing some electrical work. I was installing a light fixture. So I took the old one off and I was putting a new one on. And I had the light switch turned off. And normally if you turn off the light switch, it means there's no power going to the light. That's if it's a, see if I can get this right, a single pole switch, which I thought it was. Anyways, I'm up there twisting some wires. And all of a sudden I start yelling, hooting and hollering up on a ladder, getting electrocuted. My wife comes in, she's like, is everything okay? I'm like, yeah, everything's all right. I'm just, electrocuting myself here, and the point I'm making here is like when you, like, I don't know if any of you have ever been electrocuted. I've been electrocuted numerous times, but it's scary. It's frightening. And, when we have a fear response, the fear response is going to be loud. And if you're someone like me, who isn't afraid of profanity, like Your fear response might have some profanity in it. It might have some, some hooting and hollering, you know, and that's normal. That's human. Like that's a good time to have some fear. I don't want to just keep holding on to those wires saying, all is God, all is love. Home, Shakti, Shakti, Shakti. I'm gonna get shocked, and you're gonna hear me scream and hoot and holler, and I got to get down off that ladder real quick, and make some noise. And the thing about fear is, like biologically speaking, fear is supposed to be loud. It's supposed to be loud. So you get the heck out of the way. So you get your hand off the hot stove. So you let go of the electrical wires when you're, electrocuting yourself. Now look, I just have to say this, that look, whoever wired it before me, like sometimes when you're in an old house and it's been remodeled 6 different times, sometimes people steal power from different switches and circuits and this type of thing. And so whoever wired it before me, they wired it wrong. And that circuit shouldn't have been shocking me, but it was. Anyways, your fear response is supposed to be loud. And the point I'm trying to make here is when you listen to love, love often speaks to us very sweetly, silently, quietly. When the voice of love comes into our heart, it might just very sweetly say, forgive, let go, it's okay, open, trust. Now, when the voice of fear comes into us, it might say, God damn, and then mother this and mother that, and this and that. And it might be all kinds of words. When rage comes into us, it's loud. When lust or desire comes into us, it's like, I gotta have that. It's the only one thing I'm thinking about. And I have to have that. I have to have that red Ferrari right now, right now, right now. And this makes the spiritual path really difficult because often the voice of truth is going to be very silent. And we have to train ourselves to listen to the quietest voices within us. The quietest voices. Like this morning, I got up and it was so beautiful. So beautiful. Even before the sun had come up over the mountain. The sunrise, just these pinks and purples were in the sky. It was so beautiful. And so I walked outside. I had my two little puppies with me, and when we commune with the hugeness, the immensity of life, it's a silent experience. And even if someone, came out and said, gosh, wow, look how beautiful it is. It's like kind of kills it. But when we go for those walks, whether it's sunrise or sunset, or all the moments throughout the day, you see there's this beauty here. This immensity here. And for many of us, we will get our power back. We'll get our power back on the spiritual path through paying attention to that which is silent within us. The silent immensity of life. And then conversely, we lose our power through listening to talking heads on TV news telling us what's wrong with the world or what's wrong with so and so and this and that. We lose our power through spinning, through constantly scrolling on the internet, just doing those little dopamine hits. We lose our power through getting engaged in arguments online, fighting with people and arguing philosophy and this and that, being righteous. Like if you ever notice how loud righteousness is within you, if you ever compare that with forgiveness, like when you forgive someone, you'll notice the forgiveness will arise out of a space of silence, out of a sweetness. Yeah, if you ever hear your inner critic, your inner critic is loud and nasty and has self-hatred and comes like with this clamping down force and power. And so again, conversely, if you hear the voice of self-love, it's kind of soft and warm and sweet. And for most of us, it brings tears to my eyes, but how much I just never realized how much self-hatred people have or could have. So I started working with people, but with self-hatred, it's so loud and it's condemning. It's harsh. It's like an authoritarian dictator. And on the path, we progress through listening to the silent voices within. We tend to stagnate through listening to the louder voices. Now, of course, there's times on the path when the voice of truth can come forward with loud booming voice and angels, but more often than not, to me, like sometimes the spiritual path is like, it's like some magical video game, and you get to the next level through doing the opposite of what our egoic mind or egoic programming would normally think. And so in this case, like we make it to the next level through listening to this voice of innate goodness, this voice of purity, this sweetness. And I see Jennifer here just snuggling, snuggling her four-legged friend there. It's like, that's the way. It's this sweet, quiet love, this sweet gentleness. When you see your buddy, down on the floor or on the couch next to you, and you pick her up, you put her in your lap, and you start petting her, say, hey, let me love you. Let me hold you close to my heart. And there's this sweet love that goes back and forth, and you can't tell who's loving who's blessing who. It's such a gift. It's such a gift. It's so utterly powerful. And we need this. Our world needs to wake up. And for most of us, we think like waking up is this big, booming experience. So often the doorway to being awake is through a very silent and tender moment. A willingness to forgive, a willingness just to see, oh my gosh, there's something inside that's hurting and I'm needing some love. Or you look at your friend and you see, oh my gosh, my friend's hurting. Maybe I just hold a space of love and just listen to him. And so anyways, let's see what else is here. Blair writes, to trust my life path. Yeah. I can certainly say I struggled with this so much. This is how hilarious, how silly, how confused I was. Here I was, 18, 19 years old when I met my teacher. So I had a spiritual teacher that I worked for, that I apprenticed under, that paid me, gave me so much support, and just gave me his constant attention. And I'd go home at night and I'd read books, like say of like Vivekananda, these great spiritual masters from India. And I thought, no, I need to go to India to find my spiritual teacher. It's like we just get confused. I didn't trust that like God was taking full care of me, providing so much to me. And I thought, no, my true life, my true spiritual path is in India. It's not here in Colorado, paying me to be on the path, literally. It's just like I was paid to be on the path. And again, like it sounds so crazy. And I didn't trust it. So I had to go to India. I went to India and I met all these great masters. But I realized, oh my gosh, like I'm going back home to my teacher. It's like the best thing for me, for me, for me. I went to the Ramana Maharshi ashram. They were doing the same thing they were doing at the Aurobindo ashram. And, it was actually, I can't remember who it was. It was like Ramana's great nephew or something was running the ashram. And, they were just like chanting and doing rituals, like guru ritual worship all day long. None of the things that Ramana did, by the way, but it's just, kind of they just went and took on this conservative approach. And, I was like, oh, this isn't my path either. Like just doing pujas all day. It was a beautiful temple. And I love being, at the foot of Mount Arunachala, but it's like I didn't trust. I didn't trust that God gave me my path. I didn't need to fly across the world and get really sick in India. I didn't need to do that. But, anyways, okay. Yeah, can we trust our life path? Do we see that God is here now with all of us? And sometimes God is looking at us in the form of a little kitty cat or a little puppy dog or a big fluffy puppy dog. Or like God is looking at us through the eyes of our children, through the sky. I went out this afternoon and there was just all these squawking birds. But it was like a choir, like a chorus of angels out there just squawking away just in the middle of the day. And it's so glorious to see that God is here, right now, in every moment. Yeah, Lauren writes, I feel that I have parts of myself that do not feel whole by themselves. Yeah. Yeah, this is an interesting one. It's a great question we can ask ourselves. If there's anything within us that feels deficient or feels like we need something outside of us to complete us, more than likely there's an aspect of our soul that's not here any longer. And like for me, when I was a child, I lost my voice because I had a big, angry father who was like an authoritarian in our house. And yeah, I hope I hope Dad, like you don't think I'm picking on you all the time, but he was hurting. Like he was hurting. And I loved him. But I was terrified. And so somewhere along the line, like I lost my voice. And I used to have these dreams like a monster or a goblin or a ghost was coming. And it was coming, and it was like coming like to smother me. But no words would come out of my mouth because I didn't have my voice. I didn't have my power. And then many years later, I found myself, in a therapy office, and, session after session, week after week, I had all this anger toward my father. And I just had to come out. I had to say it. I had to express it. Wrote all these letters to my father, not that I sent, but just to get things off my chest and to reclaim my voice, to get my voice back. It took me many, many, many years to get that voice. And as I got it back, then I started to feel whole again, Lord. And so sometimes, there's aspects of ourselves that can't feel whole because there's these other aspects that are lost. And so this is important work to really look and see, like, are there parts of me that are lost? Are there parts of me that are lost? And of course there are. Like, it's rare that you meet an individual that has all of their energy, all their power within themselves. Okay, Abby writes, feeling deficient in love in the heart, give my power away, seeking to be loved by others, feeling guided to invest more attention, care, and presence in moments with myself. Yeah. Abby, I'm going to tell you this. I don't want you to do this in moments. I want you to do this all day, every day, 24/7, completely and fully. We are loving ourselves constantly. And so, Abby, anytime, like if you can look right now, if you can look on the screen, if you can find yourself, you look there and you fall in love with that one. Fall in love with that one. Anytime you walk by and you see your reflection, just like in the window pane, see your reflection in the mirror, see your reflection in the water, you smile. You light up at your beauty and your divinity, always loving yourself. So if there's any moment your heart feels deficient, then, our job is to overwhelm our heart with love. With love. Now, I'm going to use this word, and it's a word that's used in reference to narcissists. And it makes me upset that narcissists have this, this association. But narcissists play this game of love bombing you. Right? They come in, they love bomb you, they overwhelm you with love. We all need to love bomb ourselves fully and completely again and again and again and again and again until our self knows, oh my God, I am so lovable. I'm so beautiful. I'm so good. I am a bright being of light. I'm a goddess. I'm a Buddha. To look in the mirror and to see your divinity, or to sit in meditation and be like, oh my God, I am so happy to be here with myself. To be here with myself. And now it might be fun to go out and get an ice cream with Rico Suave, but I love being with myself so much, so much. And so this part of the path I call you falling in love with you. Now, part of falling in love with you is seeing all of your divine qualities and falling in love with your goddess nature. The other part of falling in love with yourself, this is true love. True love is a willingness to love all the aspects of our shadow, of our deficiency, of our unworthiness, of our guilt. And we're loving all those places fully and completely. And we hold them in love until they no longer feel deficient. They, until they feel eternally seen and loved and met. And so again, like all these things I'm speaking about are qualities that are necessary if we want to be awake and have this awakening stabilize within us. It's very difficult for a non-dual awakening to stabilize in one who doesn't love themselves or who tries to complete themselves on the outside. And again, like, I tried all these things. The beautiful thing about the outside is the outside will fail us. And so we're forced to go inward in love. We're forced to go inward in love. But if any of you saw, like if you could see what I see within each of you, it's like, oh my God, I love you so much. I love you so much. It's so beautiful. It's so good. You're literally falling in love with God in the form of your being, in the form of your being. Okay. Lucas writes, I'm in touch with this layer of terror or whatever we want to call it, deep down in the belly, or more like between the belly and the pelvis area. It's really challenging to stay present there. Feels like being electrocuted indeed right now. That shoots upward and away at some point again. Yeah. And so Lucas, this is, a common experience of Kundalini Shakti. And when we stand on the outside of our experience, like if you stand on the outside of anything, then it has the possibility of being frightening. Lucas, I'm going to invite you just to jump right into your experience, to commune with it directly. And become this energy, become this light, become the thing that you fear. And then see, like, does fear exist here? Like when someone jumps directly into the energy of Kundalini Shakti, you no longer feel fear anymore. You come to understand that you are the Shakti instead of you being the body. Like the same thing with true love. Like if you identify with the body, you identify with the ego, and you try to complete yourself on the outside. Whereas if you join with your heart, commune fully with your heart, you come to see, oh my God, I am love. I am love. I am light. I don't need anyone to complete me. I am this eternal radiance. So Abby, the other day, I can't say the other day, I can't remember when this was. This was maybe it was a couple months ago, but I was down there in your neck of the woods, like Albuquerque, Santa Fe kind of area. And there's something about those mountains, the Sandias, and there was a rainbow that started on one side of the Sandia, went all the way to the far end of it. It was just so overwhelmingly beautiful. So overwhelmingly beautiful. It's like the totality of life was just in the Sandia Mountains. It's just so utterly gorgeous. If anyone's been to Albuquerque, like they know, it's just like this big, beautiful mountain. I think it means watermelon, right? Is that right? Like the Sandia, yes, watermelon. But it tends to have these purples and pinks, deep purples, and sometimes just like a little touch of blue, reds and oranges. And to see that, you see it in a mountain, and we see it in ourselves. We say, of course, I'm in absolute love with creation. I'm in absolute love with the self. With the self. Yeah. Yeah. Keep going back to Abby here. So, Lucas, I'm going to invite you to open, 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 and see if we need to be afraid. See. Call the bluff of fear. When you sit on the outside of your experience, it's very easy to be frightened. But when you join with it fully, you'll feel very alive. Very alive, very alive. Okay, let's see what else is here. Terry heard listen to love. Yeah, always, always. Johan writes, I lose my power when I fear upsetting / triggering people or disappointing them. Projection of my mom and dad. Yeah, yeah. You know, it's funny, just the power of projection. So my mother, in the last number of years, she discovered that she's a healer, and she's actually like a really incredible healer. And it's like she had this dormant gift like her whole life. And now she's what's my mom? She's 79 years old, and she's works at 3 hospitals, and she goes around giving free treatments like all day long. And it's just amazing work. But she said, it was, you know, like this last week, she started to walk into a patient's room, and the patient said, what are you doing here? You're coming in here to judge me and to tell me I'm wrong and to tell me I'm bad. And you drove all this way to come and give this to me. And as my mother got closer to the lady, you know, the lady's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were my mother. You know, so this lady was just projecting all this junk onto my mom. My mom's like, oh no, I'm here. You know, I'm here and I do, you know, healing touch. And you know, it's like a healing treatment that my mom, there's no touch involved. She works with the person's aura and helps, you know, clear old pain out. And the lady just laughed because she had this huge projection onto my mother. And you know, thinking my mother was her mother and here to judge her and tell her she was wrong. And so we get lost. We get lost in our projections, and the projections we have with mom and dad are big. Like I had huge projections with my father. I was terrified of any authority figure. Terrified, just terrified of police, the military, just principals, school teachers, just anyone. I was always terrified of wrestling coaches, you know, I was terrified. And so, you know, Johan, this is a great question. It's like, well, okay, I have this projection about upsetting, you know, let's say dad, you know, like most of us are terrified of upsetting our father because we'll get yelled at, And often with mom, it's, I'm afraid of upsetting mom because sometimes moms are unpredictable, you know, and you know, and so we have these projections. But you know, a great question for us to ask, like if we start to notice our projection coming online, is this person I'm speaking to, are they my mother? Are they my father? And of course not. Of course they're not mom. Of course they're not father. They are whoever they are. And Johan, like you have a job, like you're working now, you know, sharing your intuitive gifts and working as a coach, a counselor. And so, like, part of your job is to be able to speak to people directly. And they're coming to you, like they're coming to you for support. They're coming to you for a clear mirror and for you to show them, to speak up and point out their shadows, point out their illusions. And so instead of calling this, you know, triggering them or upsetting them, I want you to think they are coming to you so that their illusions may be pointed out. They're coming to you for support. And so we have to be courageous enough to speak the truth. to speak the truth. Now we can do that in a gentle way, in a sweet way. We can do it in a direct way. We can do it in a fierce way. I mean, there's all different kinds of ways we can deliver the news, but what you're saying is you're saying, oh, I've got this thing. Like I have this thing where I'm projecting it upon my clients or the people you're working with, the people you work for, or your partner or whoever. I got in a little thing tonight where, I think, I said something, and like oftentimes my wife thinks that I'm her dad, and I'm just like, I'm not your dad. Like, don't talk to me like I'm your dad. Like, we're just talking. We're just talking here. We're just talking. And, I talk, sometimes I'm loud. Sometimes I talk it away with some authority or confidence, thinking I know what I'm talking about. And sometimes she mistakes that I'm trying to be her dad. I'm like, I'm not your dad. We're like, we're just talking. We're just talking here. And all couples tend to get involved with this. Occasionally you project your mother, father. And part of us waking up is saying, okay, I see that I'm doing this. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to look at the person directly. I'm going to see, oh, this person is different. They're different than my crazy father, my crazy mother, like, or my angry father, angry mother, whatever the projection is. We see, oh, this person is different. They're not my father. They are this person. They are this person. Okay. Let's see. Anne writes, not trusting that I'll be okay. Being okay with not knowing what will happen. Yeah. Yeah. This comes up a lot on the path. Like most of us, if any of us ask our ego, like, am I going to be okay? For most of us, the answer from our egoic reality is no. No. Or your ego will sell you something. I will be okay after I have some cookies, after I have a big bowl of ice cream. I'll be okay after I get the love of my life or whatever it is. I'll be okay in the future. But right now, am I okay? Like if we ever want to know if we're okay, ask your presence. Your presence. And if you notice right now, our presence is existing. That means it's outliving the past in every moment. It's radiant. It's made of light. It's spacious. It's a gentle sense of love in our presence. There's a strength and this nobility about our presence. Well, is that thing okay? I think so. I think so. It's probably the definition of okay. This indestructible light is always here. But if you ask your ego literally is a program that is supposed to look for problems all day long. It's supposed to look for problems. Like I went out yesterday with my little dogs. I walked out to the edge of my fence. And what did I see on the other side of my fence? I saw a big pile of bear poop. And my ego said, there's danger. There's danger. The bear is still about. Now, my ego also had me put up an electric fence, to keep the bear out of my yard. But, it's like the ego's job is to look for problems. And so, like when I go out at night and I take my little dogs out with me, I go out in the yard and I got this giant, flashlight, and I'm shining it around, seeing if I see any eyeballs out there in my yard, looking to eat my little puppies. And so, ego can be helpful, if you're looking for a bear or a cougar, or what I see the other night, a family of raccoons in my yard. It's good, to look for danger if you're walking outside at night. But in the middle of the day, if you ask yourself, am I okay? And you get the answer no, well, we're asking your ego. It's the middle of the day and you ask your presence, am I okay? Well, we know the answer is yes. I'm beyond okay. I'm radiant, full of light. Okay. Catherine writes, I lose my power, striving to be better, trampling over what I am right now, also giving up because I'm exhausted from striving. Yeah, like that's a vicious loop right there. That's a vicious loop. Yeah. Catherine writes, and also cookies. Also cookies. Yeah. Yeah. So, this idea that we need to be better than what we are. And of course, there's truths here. The absolute truth that I'm speaking about, that your presence is absolutely perfect. Right here, right now. Your presence is radiant and full of love and light and truth. But our humanity can always grow, can always be improved upon. But if all of us is identified with all of our humanity, we'll be lost in that self-improvement project. But if all of you is identified with a fullness of your absolute nature, you'll see that you are absolutely perfect. This bright being of light. And this being of light happily works to help your human self grow and change and evolve here on planet Earth. And when you identify with your absolute nature, you'll find there's this overflowing love that comes into your manifest reality that helps the human to grow, to evolve. My human, I'm always working on my human, but I work on it from a place of the absolute, from a place of this overflowing energy. And that way it doesn't feel like, something that I have to fix. It just feels like, it's like a computer. It's like it's always being upgraded. And those upgrades are just free. They just keep coming. They're just downloaded. They just keep coming. They keep coming. Okay. Let's see here. Lucas writes, thank you. I needed to hear that and started to laugh a moment immediately. But sometimes, especially while interacting with others, just seems to be too much to stay present with it. Can't help but to separate myself from what's going on again in a way. Yeah. Yeah, Lucas, listen, my friend. Most of us, if we're going through something really intense, spiritually, energetic, yeah, we need to have some time alone in silence. We might need lots of time alone in silence. Like when I was gripped with existential fear and anxiety and panic and had all this Kundalini flowing through me, I spent a lot of time by myself. I spent a lot of time by myself. It was hard to function with all that energy going on. But the more time I spent with myself, then, very quickly this thing began to heal, began to open. I began to realize, oh my gosh, there's this great fountain within me, great fountain within me. And now that fountain flows and, it's just happy to be connected with humanity. Okay. All right. Let's just let me do one question that I got emailed in. It's a pretty long question. Let me see if I can, make it a little shorter. Basically, someone's having a big non-dual awakening followed by a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. To put it into context, I allow my attention to sense the larger body of awareness within me, which is the physical body. Let me get into this a little bit more. Okay, so basically what's going on with this individual is when they are relaxing in the hugeness of their being, they're finding that they are tightening and they're tensing up in the hara, in the heart, and in the head. It's bringing up fear and anxiety. Some of the energetic holdings feel very primal and archaic, especially in the hara area. It can feel physically painful at times and too hard like a stone. I do try to stretch the body gently, but I feel it doesn't really make much difference to the energy body. I'd be most grateful if you could share anything during satsang that you feel would be helpful for myself. Yeah. Yeah, this is someone I think writing in from India. Harpreet. I hope I'm saying your name right. Harpreet. So, my friend, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Lucas. I'm going to invite you to join with the energy. Join with the energy, and let's all do this just as we're ending tonight. I'm going to invite us all just to come into the body and just notice in your hara, can you find any fear, any tensing, any gripping in the hara? And instead of running away, instead of hanging out in the head and avoiding, which is what most people do when there's pain in the body, can you breathe? Can you feel? Can you open here in the space of the hara? For most of us, if we look deeply enough in the hara, we can find some primal fear. And I want us to open into this thing called fear. And to see, to feel, to experience whatever the fear, whatever the tension is, to feel it energetically. Just feeling the energy of the fear itself. And as we open here, I'm going to let go of this word fear and just seeing if we can breathe deeply, open-heartedly, trusting that it's okay to expand beyond the limitations of the body, the limitations of sometimes in our chakra centers. There's almost like a egoic shell around the chakra center. It can have like a sense of tension or a sense of holding. And can we open here, just inviting whatever shells we have, inviting the shells to break, to release, to crumble. Instead of honoring the shell, to honor the energy that the shell is trying to protect. And so we're opening to this energy. And so many of you will feel this expanding light, this immense ground of being, really opening here in the space of the hara. And your ego or your humanity might call this experience. It might label it frightening if you really feel yourself expanding and feel as if the ground's falling out. But I'm going to invite you just to play with it and see, like, do I need to be frightened of this? Can I open to this great immensity? Can I see this immensity as the energy of love, of light, of truth, of radiance? Can I become one with the hugeness of what's here? And so, Gently bringing the palms to the heart, staying with your experience, inviting this love to shine out all over creation. Especially blessing all the children of this world who've been lost, who've been confused, who've been disconnected from their homes or their parents, bringing them back home. Bringing them back home. Blessing any children who are in worlds of slavery or worlds of violence or worlds of war or abuse. Let us send this love to these children all throughout creation. Blessing the victims and blessing the abusers. May the abusers wake up. And find love in their hearts. May this light, this love, continue to shine out. Blessing those suffering under war, especially in Ukraine and Russia, Israel and Palestine and Iran, throughout Africa. May the truth of love, the truth of peace, the truth of oneness triumph throughout creation. May humanity wake up and shine love in all directions. Be kind and compassionate to all beings. May this earth realm be blessed. May the earth heal. May all beings be flooded with the highest love. And so I invite you to stay with your experience. Continue opening to this light. And to go forth sharing your light in the world. So good to be with y'all. See y'all soon. Good night, everyone.